What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the fourth album by pop singer Avril Lavigne. Basically, this project is called Goodbye Lullaby, and it came out in the winter of 2011. So the thing about this particular project is Avril Lavigne had a pretty big album with the Best Damn Thing album from 2007 that I want to say that I had number one on there in the single Girlfriend, which is a pretty good pitch around that particular time. But she went on a huge world tour throughout 2007, 2008. Particularly, it kind of took a couple years to get this album belted out as far as that particular pitch can happen. But this is a different pitch of an album here. This is a little bit different from usual Avril Lavigne. Doesn't have songs like Skater Boy on here or pitches like that, or songs like doesn't have like gothic pop rock either, like My Happy Ending, some of those type pitches, or it really doesn't have the overall boisterous kind of number one hit single energy like Girlfriend off of Best Damn Thing either. This is a differential type project. If you like some of these makeshift type songs, there's like a certain kind of makeshift aspect about this particular project. It's a lot more straightforward and just kind of more contemporary pop rock and like those light lit kind of MySpace kind of pop rock type songs that you would hear that folks like Kelly Clarkson, Rihanna, folks like that would kind of do. Maybe Pink in like a minor sense. Maybe Pink didn't full blown as much do it, but just folks like that, kind of more typical of like mid 2000s type pharaohs. Just kind of the concept of some of these particular type ones, mostly out of like pop or pop rock artists out of like 2006, 2008 pitches like that. I mean, it's a good taste of an album. It's definitely a good taste of an album, I would have to say. But compared to like, I feel like Avril Lavigne is more aiming for like commercial stardom and like a more kind of work shift type format this time. There's not as many full blown. At least two of the three singles off this particular project have a little bit of like jive and bounce towards them, which is a pretty good pitch. It's differential from what Avril Lavigne typically kind of does. This is kind of like a new aspect of an album altogether. Just really tries some different things. Not quite as much of gothic rock compared to like Under My Skin from 2004. Not quite as punk rock type edge from Let Go from 2002, and it's not quite as much like alternative bar hopping rock type phases of like Best Damn Thing from 2007. So this one in particular really focuses on like the mid 2000s pop rock type makeshift type fare that's just more work a day and just pitches like that. It has to say. So this is like the most contemporary Avril. This is the most makeshift and blue collar Avril Lavigne as to which I've seen her, and she really for the most part full blown ditches like her gothic princess type tone on this particular project. If you're looking for like a gothica kind of scream queen, Avril Lavigne, like songs like My Happy Ending, some of those type pitches, or Losing Grip, some of those type fares, or even like some of the moody type fare of like Complicated. This is a pretty straightforward Avril Lavigne, pretty much full blown ditches like the emo and kind of gothic type feel of this particular album. I feel like there's a little bit of that edginess in here. It's just kind of the concept. She like the aloofness is probably turned down to about like a 3.5 or a 4 on this particular project. It is here, and you will find some of Avril being Avril as far as that pitch goes. But in terms of like the full blown kind of typical type stuff, like when you think of Skater Boy, or when you think of like Complicated or some of those type ones, My Happy Ending, some of those type ones, even Girlfriend, some of those type aspects. I don't actually own like Best Damn Thing from 2007, so I don't know as many from 2007, but just the aspects of some of Avril's largest hits in terms of those particular fares is just this is a different taste of what to get. But I do like the singles on here. The 2 out of 3 of the singles on this particular project have a little bit more of like a nightclub and kind of more social outing type bounce, but most of this particular album is most of that kind of mid 2000s makeshift kind of malaise that you would get from like pop rock artists around that time. So it's just kind of the concept. This is a good album. It's just a little bit more straightforward, just kind of relationship type fare. This project is a little bit more hammy and like a hands full relationship type fare, just with like a more straightforward workaday type sense. But it is a pretty good concept just for that workaday kind of blue collar type fare, just within the pitch behind it. So it's just kind of more blue collar type fare, just amongst like more of like a personal life type setting, less kind of recreational, kind of more gothic, more alternative type pitch that Avril's normally known for. But we'll go ahead, get to some of the singles here. Basically, this is a pretty brief album. I just look after the concept. Avril Lavigne took like pretty much almost 4 years off, and then on top of that, only put back out 3 singles around this particular time. And these pretty much these I want to say did decently. I think at least What the Hell is a pretty good song for that relative pitch, but Smile and Wish You Were Here just didn't quite chart as heavily as probably what they needed to. I think Smile was like a top 70 single or something like that, I'd have to say. But promotion off this album rather quickly, I'd have to suppose. Just kind of the concept. I don't know if Avril Lavigne just felt like an afterthought on this particular product. Mate, just kind of the concept, just kind of what happened. Just kind of felt more here and there. Kind of felt like she was just a little bit not necessarily bipolar, but just kind of more in like a fleeting type mood. I would almost have to say I don't think Avril Lavigne is bipolar, but just the concept of just back and forth, kind of more moody type fare just within that pitch. I mean, I would say at least the product of like how the album was belted out was kind of within a typical kind of fleeting type aspect. But Look after it, some good stuff. So what the hell is the first single? It's like a fluffy kind of pop rock house party noise of a song, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a random and kind of obscure Avril Lavigne, I would definitely say about this particular pitch. Pretty good local residential bounce to kind of get off this one. This has some good, it's like some good Avril jive. I would definitely feel like this is like a moody kind of vintage goth pop of a song, I'd have to say in particular. So this is kind of more Avril Lavigne on like her Dark Princess type fare, just within the aspect of having some of that house party type bounce as far as particular pitches kind of go along with that. This is really a song that Avril Lavigne just hasn't done. For the most part, I can't think of too many dance club type songs that Avril Lavigne has done. She's done like bar hopping type ones, like Girlfriend, some of those type ones, but in terms of something that would be like Red Cup, kind of Crown Royal type music, I haven't really seen as many full blown ones within that relative pitch. But this is just a real nice one to kind of get here. I do appreciate this particular concept. There should have been way more songs like this on this particular album. I definitely feel like the affability behind this one, Avril Lavigne has like the perfect amount of sass on this particular song. Just a good concept to kind of have some of that on here. Just really, I feel like at least the first two singles have some of that relative edginess about it. But this is really, if you find this album off of these two songs, just realize that the rest of this project is a different taste from what these particular two songs convey. But they're definitely really in the album cuts, apart from like if you get the deluxe edition, there is like a cover song of Bad Reputation, but apart from What the Hell, Smile, and Bad Reputation, those are about as full blown as like the more turn up type songs really get on this project, which it severely lacks. But it's not to say this album is bad, it's just the concept, it's just a different taste compared to what probably should have been on here. But Smile is the second single. It's a pretty good pitch for this. It's like a glared kind of alternative rock, bar rock bounce of a song, I would definitely say about this one. This one definitely reminds me of Girlfriend and some of the songs off The Best Damn Thing as well, I'd have to say. This is like a social kind of basic jig type music. I would definitely have to suppose good bounce to kind of have. This one's less of like a house party type fare, more of like social outing, just out and about, kind of more restaurant and dance club type places, I'd have to say, or more restaurant, bar hopping, sports bar type places, I'd have to suppose in particular. This is another new flavor for Avril Lavigne for the most part, apart from maybe a little bit mildly on her 2007 album. This is a pretty good hitter, I'd have to say. So real good 1-2 punch with like some social bounce as far as that particular kind of goes. Is getting Avril Lavigne with like some good social fare as far as stepping out and pitches like that. I would definitely, I suppose, just appreciate the concept of just some of this blissful type appeal. So I do like the particular taste behind this particular product, but it's just kind of the concept that I feel like these were like the selling points to this particular album. And these particular songs also came out at an odd time for Avril Lavigne, also just because she wasn't really there that much in like 2009, 2010 and the second half of 2008 as far as pitches like that kind of happens. I want to say that there really weren't any live projects or EPs. Maybe there might have been something amongst that time, but it just didn't really feel like it. She kind of took a relatively decent sized break after Best Damn Thing from early 2007. But these are some good balanced songs just to be able to get, so I do like that. And then more representative of most of this album here would be Wish You Were Here. This is a nice one, but it's just more straightforward, just kind of more homely type fare. So it's like a straightforward kind of late day makeshift malaise of a song, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a good vanilla commerce of like it's definitely like some good vanilla commerce, and this is a pretty good sun gazing type hit. So a lot of this album is pretty much sun gazing, just the concept like that, just the concept like that 4 o'clock p.m. kind of dredge as far as pitches like that kind of happen. Most of this kind of has some sort of sunset, sun gazing type pitch in mind, just like that evening work shift, just got done with work, blue collar type fare. A lot of these just are going to be within that similar type fashion. Like I said, What the Hell and Smile are just two differential. Like I was saying, What the Hell and Smile are just two differential type ones that just are really not represented much in full blown fashion like they probably needed to be. I think it probably would have been a pretty good winter taste of this particular album. Especially, I just don't know where the gothic Avril Lavigne kind of went. I was kind of curious as to where that particular kind of happened. She felt a lot more just rosy and kind of more homebound just off this particular album. I feel like this is a pretty like composed Avril Lavigne just within the sense that it's just a lot more, I would say, just vulnerable and kind of straightforward just within the pitch behind it. She's really not as like, I mean, maybe the promotion of this album is kind of fleeting, but for the most part, this particular pitch is just a lot more settled down. This particular project is just a lot more settled down and open as far as those pitches kind of happen with it. Just a good relative makeshift type push to kind of get, but it just does. I'd have to say about this particular product, it feels less like Avril Lavigne and more just like a factory kind of vanilla pop rock artist as far as pitches like that kind of happen. I mean, there's enough kind of taste Avril Lavigne on here, but it's just not nearly as shown full blown compared to like what she was doing in like the early and mid 2000s. So it's this kind of thing. But so we'll kind of get to some of these songs I recommend on here. Basically, there's 15 on the deluxe edition of this album. There is 15 songs on here. Really, there's 21 on the Spotify edition, but the only real new song that's not like an acoustic song or like an instrumental or pitches like that is just the Bad Reputation cover. So I'm just going to count it as there being 15 songs. But out of 15 songs, I wound up recommending 11. So the only 4 songs I don't recommend. The only 4 songs I don't recommend would just be Black Star, Alice, Goodbye, and Not Enough, I would have to say. So it's just kind of the concept about some of those. Basically, Goodbye was just not a very good pairing of one. I feel like this was just kind of a send off to the album that just didn't work quite as well as far as that pitch kind of went. I feel like this is like the typical kind of moody type fare that Avril would have on some of her more gothic type days, but it just didn't pull off the pitch behind like a kind of more salutations and like the opposite of like a salutations type feel as far as that particular pitch kind of having just like a send off, a goodbye, like the song says as far as that pitch kind of goes. But this was not a very good execution of really doing that. I feel like the song "Let Me Go" from like Avril Lavigne's 2013 album just handled that particular pitch just extremely way better. Even though that was a later album, I still feel like this one's just not a very good rendition. Alice was kind of like a poor power pop type promote. Alice was just kind of a poor power ballad type song, and I'd say this really did not. It was kind of an empowering type song that just didn't pull up the vibes as well as it probably needed to. It was just kind of a clumsy type one. Black Star was just a poor type intro that just didn't really have a really good, just didn't really have like a real good piano type beat. I definitely feel like compared to some songs on there, like compared to like a better piano type song like Slipped Away off of Avril Lavigne's 2004 album Under My Skin, I just feel like I was kind of really felt like Avril Lavigne just was not able to nail some of the gothic type moments or more moody type fare. Not to say it's not so much the moody type fare, it's just kind of the concept of just the gothic type feel that she had in 2004 and 2002, especially some or 2002 and 2004 especially just didn't really have that same pitch here. I was probably expecting a little bit more from Black Star, but it just didn't nail it. And then Not Enough was just kind of a work shift type one, like a lot of these songs on here that I'm getting ready to list, but just didn't have the same appeal as some of these other type ones. I mean, most of these are at least within the relative fair, like a steadfast kind of work shift type tone. But this one's just not quite as interesting as the rest of some of these on here. But to say about this particular product is just the fact that although this is a good album, it's going to get a pretty above average score. I would have to say the concept of it, unless you kind of have a little bit more steadfast type tone and more SFW type pitch as far as wanting to go through some of these, for the most part, this album, the best moments would be the up tempo type songs, just to be able to say that. It's not to say that there isn't more fun to be had on this particular product, but it is just a lot more straightforward and just get you through the workday and just steadfast kind of makeshift as far as that kind of happens. So if you're not really in the mood for that, if you do miss Avril Lavigne from like her Skater Boy days or Losing Grip type days, My Happy Ending type days, some of those type ones off of her early 2000s and mid 2000s days, it just doesn't really have that in abundance. This is a lot more just like not necessarily like a sellout type project, but just a real replica of like some pop rock that just is straightforward and just is more workaday type commerce, just everyday type feel. So it's just kind of, as much as I like this album, for the most part, I don't know how many full blown times. It's not really something to bump in the whip or knock or just go out and dance to pitches like that. Or really weekend type fare, minus like 3 songs, one of which is only on the deluxe edition. So this is kind of the concept that this is, I would say the social score might take a tumble a little bit. This is a good album, but it's just not as much of like a contemporary type project. So I will recommend these still. Basically, Push is like a good pairing with Wish You Were Here, I'd have to say. It's like a light lit kind of makeshift dredge of a song, I'd have to say in particular. It's like some typical kind of work shift commute fare, I would definitely have to say. Like so many of these songs on there, it's a pretty good pitch to kind of get some of these. It's a good work shift kind of, it's overall straightforwardness. Just like a lot of these songs are going to kind of have that particular fare. Most of these, I think this every other song off this particular album is going to have that pitch, minus the song Remember When, I'd have to say. And then Bad Reputation. I'll go ahead and list them. So Stop Standing There is a nice one as well. It's like a vintage kind of Avril emo rock with like a hazy evening dredge, I'd have to say in particular. This has some pop flavor, I would definitely say, and it's like a good for like a typical day outing. So some of these kind of have some of that vintage Avril kind of gothicness in there, or at least emo rock, just within that relative sense. It's more of like the way she was on Let Go and Under My Skin, some of those type pitches. I feel like Standing There is one of those type ones. Just like that hazy kind of evening malaise about it. I Love You's a pretty similar one to some of these ones I've been listing. This is a nice one. It's like a syrupy kind of rosy evening sun gazing makeshift of a song it has to say in particular. It's like some makeshift pop rock, I would definitely feel like. Typical kind of flavor with like hands full swing, I'd have to say about it in particular. This good hands full relationship type fare as far as pitches like that kind of happen. Just blue collar life, just pitches as far as that particular kind of goes. Just some personal life type tones as far as that would kind of happen with it. Good concept just for that standard fare, just basic kind of day commerce hangout type pitches with more tied down type fare as far as pitches like that kind of go. Darlin is a pretty nice one. This has a little bit more of like a bounce towards it, but not much. It's just a little bit more of like a balmy type one. It's like a hazy and kind of dewy, acoustic, kind of folksy makeshift with like some vintage Avril aloofness about it. It has to say in particular, a little bit more compared to some of these ones. Not quite as much straightforward, but still relative steadfast. I'd have to say it's like a good workaday kind of evening fare about this particular song. So it's just a good concept for that. I appreciate some of these type ones. Everybody Hurts is like a wanderlust kind of evening sun gazing of a song. I'd have to say it's like a stock kind of work shift noise. I would feel like with like out and about kind of ruminating about it. So some of these are just more kind of contemporary out and about, not so much housebound or pitches like that. I mean, some of these are just kind of localized as sunset gazing pitches like that, but some of these just kind of have more, say, whether or not you're in the whip, sunset gazing, or just local bound sunset gazing. It's the same relative concept with just steadfast type pitch as far as that particular kind of goes, but these are just some nice ones as far as that particular kind of happens. Really just piles on the dredge as far as that particular kind of goes with it. Just the concept of just really, like I was saying, pretty interchangeable with like pop rock, just within the pitch of something ripped out of 2007, 2009, 2010, as far as that particular kind of goes, which is interesting. It's just kind of the concept. Like I said, this feels, I mean, minus like a few tinges of like Avril Lavigne flavor here and there, it just kind of feels more like a straightforward kind of pop rock album just within that pitch, which I just makes me wonder why Avril didn't pepper some more of these type ones in here with like some of her old type days as far as that kind of happens. But still good album. Remember When is a differential type one. This is a pretty good one here. It's like a good commercial bound, kind of moody, bloodletting pop rock. Remember When is like a good commercial bound, moody, bloodletting pop rock hazer of a song. I'd have to say in particular is like some workaday commerce for like pondering out and about. I just would have to suppose, and it's just some good good everyday type commerce. I'd have to say. So this is kind of a more typical type one, like a rainy day type fair pitches like that. It's kind of some. This would kind of be more like the emo pop rock type tip. I just look after it's still a little bit more commercial bound than most of this. I really feel like Avril, this was not really that alternative off this particular project. Kind of similar to like the Best Damn Thing, but just without the alternative rock kind of bounce. That particular one. This one's less. Goodbye Lullaby is less kind of bar hopping alternative type feels for the most part, but this one just kind of feels a little more like a commercial bound, just kind of car traverse type one to kind of get just within the concept a little bit more just standard traverse ruminating. For Real is a pretty nice one as well. It's like a listless kind of sun gazing and good combo and kickback and like late day fair type tune. I would have to say a good concept for basic kickback, just like some of these type ones on here, like I Love You, Darling, Stop Standing There, some of those type pitches. It's another good concept that's like some basic ruminating for like some golden days out. I'd have to say in particular. This has real golden type feel. It's great for like late August, September, October, late summer, early autumn, as far as pitches like that kind of happen. Almost like a pop rock reimagining it, like complicated without the moodiness. I'd have to say it's good relative concept for that. And then a refreshing highlight of this particular project would be Bad Reputation if you get the deluxe edition, which I do definitely recommend because otherwise you're only going to have a couple songs for like some relative turn up. But this is like a good revving Avril Lavigne cover, I would definitely have to say. This one definitely reminds me of Girlfriend from the previous album from 2007, I would have to say. And this song basically fits Avril Lavigne like a glove. So I'm not sure who particularly did this. I don't know if it was like Joan Jett or someone like that. It feels like it's a song out of the 80s. I've heard Bad Reputation before. I don't really full blown just know who did it, but it's a pretty popular song. It's pretty good pitch. It's really just feels like Avril Lavigne did this song, despite the fact that it came out 20 years, probably came out 20 years before she came out on the scene. But it's a pretty good concept. She fit, like I was saying, she fits this song like a glove. It's just an excellent type of song to hear her do a cover to. It just works pretty well. She basically makes the song her own, I'd have to say. The basic quality alternative bar hopping type craze as far as pitches like that kind of happens. So that's the concept about this particular album. So me recommending 11 songs out of 15 on this particular project. I'm going to go ahead and give this project like an 8.5 out of 10. Like I said, this has enough bounce about it, but really just with only three songs out of 15 that really have like any sort of social type snap and pitches like that or relative festivities about it. I'd have to say in particular that most of this is just like a more standard worship type, commute, just work a day type feel, just to kind of get you going just from point A to point B as far as particular that kind of goes. This is pretty straightforward, just within the same concept of tied down type formats too, just more in your personal life as far as pitches like that kind of happen. But I mean, it's a pretty rosy and balmy type project within that relative sense, but it just does not have much time to kind of cut loose. It's like basically like a more work shift type version. If you were to take Avril Lavigne's Let Go album from 2002 and remove like the moodiness of that particular project and just add it with like more work shift and kind of like more work shift and kind of pop rock type tones. Just songs like Complicated, which is not a bad thing. Complicated is a great song pitch like that, but just the pop rock type feel, Complicated with just more work shift type fare and like a tied down and just more workaday type sense, more blue collar type fare, this would be your album. So it gets an 8.5 out of 10 just because it's good, but it's just kind of constant. Just probably need a lot more turn up, a lot more loosen up type moments, a little bit more riveting type stuff. Pitches like that, I would definitely have to say some more gothic touch. I don't know where the gothic Avril Lavigne went. Like I was saying, probably needed some pitches from like her old days, something like that. Maybe it wouldn't have fit the theme of this album, but really the moody and kind of edgy Avril Lavigne is just not really on here. She's not as much of like a bad girl on this particular product and really doesn't have that much kind of usual sass and this kind of aloofness that she normally has. The social score as a result, that's kind of tricky. I think I'm gonna give the social score like a 5 out of 10. I feel like there's at least some decent bounce on here. I do feel like this is like a standard kind of commute and just overall work shift type project to kind of get if you just need some standard type fare for like pop rock, just basic kind of day fare activity, especially for like your personal life. I think apart from like the occasional one or two or three bops on here, like what the hell, Smile and Bad Reputation. This is pretty much like a minimal type album for like social type commerce and just overall turn up, I'd say. So it's just the songs that are good are pretty good when they do it correctly. And maybe like an extra song like Darlin' or something like that has a little bit of mild bounces within it, but it's just relatively kind of minimal. I would almost give it a lower score, but the songs that are good are pretty good just because they are good moments to kind of have Avril Lavigne showcase in like a new kind of clever light and pitches like that. Just some good taste of what probably could have this album could have had more of, but that's this kind of thing. It's just I'm also up in the score of the social score just because of the quality of some of these straightforward type blue collar type songs. But so 5 social. In terms of the future, like Avril Lavigne put out a greatest hits album in the summer of 2024, which I'm not going to review because it doesn't have any new material on there. I do at least still have her 2019 album. I still at least have her 2019 album Head Above Water to get to, and then I'm going to get to her 2001 demo album Pitches Like That. And then I'm going to review Love Sucks, the deluxe from the second half of 2022, I'd say. So we'll get to some more of these type ones. This is a relatively straightforward type project. It has some good stuff on here. It may be a shade weaker than normal Avril Lavigne, I'd have to say, but it's not the concept like it's a bad project. It's just a different taste of something. Her just trying some different products that work pretty well. It's just the fact that it kind of leaves you high and dry when you're looking for more recreational type stuff. This is a pretty good album. It's just in a different light.